I will give you a short introduction to the topic in general. So I would like to deliver a talk at the end of this month in Washington DC on a notion, namely the parabasis, which is an old Greek notion. Parabasis. This conference is focusing on comparative literary studies, and so this is a literary theoretical topic, and this word in Greek is parabasis, and it means you can find two parts, and this means a step, and this is the same prefix that you can find in the noun of parallelism and paranoia and so on and so on. So when you have two lines like this is a position of para. So this is a prefix, and this is the another part, which is the noun of a step. And this roots originally in a verb in the Old Greek, in parabaino, which is the same. So this is the verb form, the same prefix, and then to step is the bino. So you can translate this in English, for example, step, sidestep, or yeah, I will give you some example, because we can find this word in the Old Comedy, 5 centuries before Christ. You can find the author is Aristophanes. He's the most Old Comedy's author, and he used this word parabasis a lot because there is a term in the Old Comedy, and it means in this case a transgression, sidestep, and a particular part of the drama which I would like to talk in this paper. So this is the original meaning, and then, or maybe parallel with this Archimedean meaning, you can find another one, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm a research scholar at the Divinity School. There is something which is connected with theology, and yes, you can find the Greek translation of the Hebrew Old Testament, namely in the Septuagint. So this is the Old Testament in the Bible, and in Greek. And there also you can find this noun, parabasis, and it signs the original sin in the first part, or the first book of the Bible, which means the sin of Adam and Eve in the paradise. So as we can find this neutral notion in the literature, in the civil literature, we can find the same word in the sacred texts as a sinful, a bad notion. So this is the introduction, and I would like to read only the first part, the introduction, or the first part of this paper, and you can get familiar with this notion in this way. So this paper gives an account of the results of the historical poetical analysis of the parabasis in schematic form. The reason for an analysis is primarily the fact that the term used in the Old Comedy has been mainly examined from a rhythmical and only rarely from a poetical point of view. As a necessary result, the parabasis has been considered a marginalized phenomenon which, however, having gone through its own history and experiencing many transformations, still confronts us today with further questions. In addition, it is also encouraging that the theoretical references of the 19th and 20th centuries reflecting on the ancient notion usually avoid most of the historical passage, and thus can only offer the term of parabasis is a partially or completely walkthrough for the modern humanities. The research does not only follow the occurrences of the noun in question and the changes in its meaning, but also examines its basis, the verb parabaino, and the synonymous parakbasis related to the parabasis, not on the grounds of language history, but from a historical poetical point of view. The research also reflects on the Latin translation of these words. Athens and Alexandria are divided by the Mediterranean Sea. However, they are connected through the notion history of the parabasis. This is why it is important for us to anchor first at the coast of Greece. Anticipating the conclusions, the aim of this paper is to reintegrate the notion of parabasis known from antiquity. Thus, an ancient notion may be weighed in the context of modern literary theory. Behind the meanings of the verb parabaino, consistently expressing movement, we may find in the image of the sea leaving its bed. The meanings overstep, step out, sidestep, transgress, and carry out parabasis, directly or indirectly, always indicate a movement that can be described in relation to a certain place or situation. In the comedies of Aristophanes, we can also see a turning away from the actors and scheme, and by stepping on the orchestra, a step towards the audience. Therefore, the verb and the noun phrase derived from the verb indicate the movement of the actor or chorus stepping out of the play in a particular sense. This is what parabasis keeps as a term of the old comedy. The term parabasis, therefore, refers to a part of the comedy with such particular rhythm and movement that reflects on the role and costume of those uttering a parabasis and on the stage of the particular comedy in itself, and in the competition between other comedies. Yet, many of its intertextual references and expressions referring to literary characteristics primarily create an ironic winning contact with the audience. The frames of contact, almost without exception, consist of bias, political resolutions of public matters of Athens, faithful to the public nature of the carnival like Bacchanalia and Lenaia festivals. The two permanent characters of the comedy are the arrogant Elezzo and Aaron, unmasking the former, who retreat behind the scheme before the parabasis, giving their place to the chorus, saying goodbye to them and asking for the help of the gods, like an invocation, preparing the scheme for the parabasis. These arrangements of the parts of the comedy and the language of the parabasis in all leads us to the conclusion that the chorus left alone on the stage and jestingly telling the audience the truth straight in the eye takes on the role of Aaron, which means at the same time that at this point the comedy transforms the audience into an Elezzo, to be unmasked. In the 5th century, the carnival celebrations, also serving as frames of the drama, made everyone actors and spectators at the same time. These festive roles were then artificially separated by the theatrical performance and then merged again later when it took the audience to the stage or transformed the audience into its own spectator through the parabasis. Reality and artistic fiction create a unity. A fragment from Schlegel about irony gains meaning in this reading. I quote, "The Ironie ist eine permanente Parakbase," end quote, which is cited by Paul de Man in several for his works without elaboration but with conviction. For instance, you can find references on parabasis in one of his latest transcripted lectures at Yale. We can only understand irony as a permanent parabasis if we consider it in the light of the switching of roles described above, because otherwise the character of Aaron would be missed from the stage of the comedy, particularly during the parabasis. Thank you for your attention.